Marat Khusnutdinov was the overtime hero last night, and quite suddenly, the Boston Bruins have won 3 of their past 4 and definitely have something to build off.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked B. Today is Friday, October 31st. Happy Halloween, and thank you so much for making Locked On Boston Bruins your first listen every day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And on today's episode, we are going to discuss last night's overtime win over the Buffalo Sabres, a game in which the Bruins coughed up a 3-1 lead, had to go to overtime where Marat Khusnutdinov, who was playing on the first line last night, scored the overtime winner. We're also going to touch on Morgan Geekie's hot streak, Joonas Korpisalo starting over Jeremy Swayman for the second game in a row, and an injury to Elias Lindholm. All the storylines, the stats, and the significance of last night's win before we preview Saturday's game against the Carolina Hurricanes. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Before we get started, a quick reminder to find the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast on your socials at Locked NHL Bruins. And you can find me, my hockey thoughts, dad jokes at Ian C. McLaren. I have been covering the Boston Bruins and the NHL for various outlets for nearly 20 years. Last night, Marat Khusnutdinov stepped up huge, unleashing a snapshot from the right side that went right to the back of the net past Buffalo Sabres goaltender Alex Lyon. He not only helped secure a 4-3 win for the Bruins over the Sabres, but it was a huge moment for him personally after he's been kind of in and out of the lineup this season, being a healthy scratch for more than a week, just last week. And last night was given a chance to skate on the top line with Elias Lindholm and David Pastrnak, and he made the most of it. Now, the overtime goal was assisted by Fraser Minton, but it was all Khusnutdinov who skated up the ice and just ripped one past. Khusnutdinov said, "It's unbelievable for me. First game with the first line, first goal of the season. Great for the team. Great for me. It's new for me," he said, the first time he's played on the first line in the NHL, and it was a great time. Nikita Zadorov, who in my mind is increasingly, and I argued this back in the summer kind of as a bold take, but he's really developing to me as a guy who deserves to wear the C. And we see this in how he reacted to Khusnutdinov's goal. Zadorov said he was really happy. He's a good player and a good kid, too. Zadorov added they've been close since Khusnutdinov came to Boston last year in the trade that sent Justin Brazeau to the Minnesota Wild. Family's close. He's coming over to their place for trick-or-treating tonight, which is going to be exciting. It's really cool to see Zadorov taking a young player under his wing. Of course, they have the Russian ties there as well, so they quite literally speak the same language. But for him, don't forget, we've talked a lot coming into the season about kids versus vets and whether or not they should go with some of the younger guys. Khusnutdinov is only 23 years old, and he was drafted in the same year, the same round as a guy like Mason Lohrei, who was last night for the second game in a row in favor of Jonathan Asperot, which I'm not a huge fan of as a fantasy owner. Hopefully he's back in the lineup sooner than later, but you never know if they might just keep rolling with this lineup that's now won 2 games in a row, 3 of their past 4. When it comes to Khusnutdinov, again, he's still pretty young, only 23 years old, and he's still developing his game at the NHL level. He's only got 99 total games over the past 4 seasons now. 7 goals, 11 assists. He's got all the talent in the world, a high energy playmaker who makes things happen when he steps on the ice, according to Dobber prospects. Responsible two-way center. He did play some center when Lindholm went down last night and was not able to return to the game. We'll talk about that later. Can play a strong 200-foot game, slightly undersized, but doesn't shy away from the action. He also has good leadership abilities. This is a guy who could be a key piece for this team moving forward. And Marco Sturm obviously was impressed with how he reacted to being scratched last week. The head coach said a player has to understand that, is it fun when you get scratched? No. But the player has to be ready when your opportunity comes. This is a low-key message to Mason Lohrei as well, who I mentioned has been scratched. Huzi was scratched. The head coach said he has worked. He worked really hard in practice and just waited for his opportunity, and then he took advantage. So Khusnutdinov is the biggest storyline from last night's game. He's our Bruin of the day here today because of that overtime game winner. And hopefully this is something to build off for him, and he can continue to show that growth that the Bruins are looking for. Korpisalo starting over Jeremy Swayman is another huge storyline from last night. Swayman was in net for this team's last loss, which was that quote-unquote embarrassing result against the Anaheim Ducks against the Ottawa Senators on Monday. They went to Korpisalo on Tuesday against the Islanders, a 5-2 win, even though they went down 2-0. They came back. Last night, the Bruins were up 3-1. They allowed the Sabres to come back and tie it. But Sturm, after the game, said he's very happy for these guys, especially Huzi and Korpisalo. Korpi, quote-unquote, earned the start, and that's why we went back to him. And he showed it again today. Very good. Huzi, since he's been back, he's been really good. Even with Lindholm out, he put him back in the middle, and he was excellent. And that's why he didn't hesitate to put him out there 3-on-3. Now, the Lindholm injury did not look good at all. He left the game 7:20 of the second period with a lower body injury after a collision with Sabres forward Jordan Greenway. No update after the game, but Sturm did say anytime you have to help a guy off the ice, it's usually not a good sign. So we'll have to wait for an update on Lindholm. We'll discuss more the significance of that here coming up on the podcast. But on the positive side of things, the Bruins have won 3 of their past 4. Colorado, the Islanders, the Sabres. Huzi stepped up huge, getting that overtime winner. Joonas Korpisalo has won 2 games in a row now. It'll be interesting to see if they ride the hot hand or if they go back to Swayman for Saturday's game against the Carolina Hurricanes. That's going to be a big test for this team to see if they can keep the momentum going, get back to 500. And that's a game we'll preview coming up later on Locked On Boston Bruins. Immediately after the break, we're going to discuss Morgan Geekie's hot streak, as well as the significance of last night's game. And we'll touch on that here as the podcast continues. Hockey season is officially here, and there is nothing like being in the arena for those opening games. Let's be real, folks. Getting tickets can be a total headache. Between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout, it's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. And that's where Game Time comes in. the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. I used Game Time this past summer to get seats for baseball games, and it couldn't have been simpler. Great seats in minutes. What you see is what you pay. There's no hidden fees at checkout, and you get a view of what your seats will give you vantage point wise with their in-app seat view feature. You can find NHL tickets for under $25. Their zone deals are a game changer. Pick the section, and Game Time picks your seats so you save big. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Create an account and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but that's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. All right, another big thing from last night's game was Morgan Geekie scoring once again. This guy is absolutely on fire. His team leading 9th goal of the season, and he has goals in his past 6 consecutive games as well. One of the things that I was looking at coming into the season was, Morgan Geekie coming off a career high 33 goals, but it's coming on a 22% shooting success rate. So far this year, he's got 9 goals on 27 shots, so that's 33.3%. The other day, David Pastrnak said, Morgan Geekie has all the skill in the world to challenge for 50 goals. And if he's going to keep succeeding at this rate, then the sky's the limit for this kid. Now, we do expect that his shooting percentage will fall back down to earth at some point. But he's also got a pretty good run going here. Remember last year, he was scratched very early and often by head coach Jim Montgomery. And then once he came back and was put on the top line, he has been dynamite. In fact, since January 1st, 2025, both David Pastrnak and Morgan Geekie are 1-2 in the NHL in goals scored. David Pastrnak has 37 goals in the past 56 games, dating back to January 1st. Morgan Geekie with 34 goals over that span. So not only is he keeping up with David Pastrnak, but those two guys are tops in the NHL since the beginning of 2025. Now, Leon Draisaitl's one behind Geekie with 10 fewer games played, but still, just unbelievable production from Morgan Geekie and David Pastrnak. Pastrnak has a shooting percentage of 17.8. Morgan Geekie at 32.1. And Pastrnak has 102 more shots than Geekie over those 56 games. So, like, literally to see him get his shot rate up. He does have 2 minutes and 13 seconds fewer average ice time minutes than Pastrnak this calendar year. So that's a factor as well. But if Geekie can get his shot rate up with the way that he's shooting, there's every reason to believe that he can keep this going. He's had a few games this season with only 1 shot. He had a couple with zeros, but he's actually been shooting pretty often lately. Over the last 5 games, he's got, 23 shots. So he's averaging over 4 shots a game over the past 5. And that's something that needs to keep going in order for him to sustain this success. But just unbelievable production, like literally unbelievable production from our boy Morgan Geekie here to begin the season. Even more prolific than he was last year. Pastrnak has 11 points now in his past 7 games, 2 goals from reaching 400 for his career. So that's what you want to see. Other goal scorers last night, Marco Sturm gave the Bruins a 3-1 lead. He crashed the net during a scramble, stuffed home a Tanner Jeannot rebound. It's nice to see him continuing or coming back from that injury last year. He's been producing pretty well. And, of course, we had the goals from Pastrnak and Geekie as well. The Bruins have now won 2 in a row, 3 of 4, and have a record of 6-7. Shout out to the kids out there who are saying that all the time. Now, the underlying numbers weren't super friendly to the Bruins, let's be honest. At 5-on-5 last night, Sabres had 55% of the shot attempts, 64% of the total shots, 67% of the scoring chances, and 70% of the high danger chances. 12-5 in favor of Buffalo at 5-on-5. And the numbers aren't much better when it comes to all situations. 54% of the shot attempts, 65% of the shots, 60% of the high danger, 70% of the high danger chances. And expected goals last night for Buffalo, 5.78 compared to 2.32 for the Bruins. This is not a game that the Bruins dominated by any stretch of the imagination. They were outshot 40-22. But they were able to capitalize on a power play opportunity, as were the Sabres. Block shots, the Bruins were only blocking 7 shots compared to 19 for Buffalo. So, in a lot of ways, the Sabres, when they were down 3-1, it was lopsided in their favor, like the overall game flow. And they rightfully were able to tie it based on the pressure they were putting on and just how things were going. Outshooting Boston 11-5 in the third period. The Bruins, though, in overtime, outshot Buffalo 3-0, got the extra point. And again, they're now 6-7 to begin the season. And if they can pull off one more win here against Carolina, it would bring them back to 500 for the first time since, they won 3 in a row to begin the season and then lost 3 in a row in that lengthy losing streak. Overall, though, they were able to move up a bit in the standings. They're now 12th in the Eastern Conference with 12 points in 13 games, more than Florida, more than Buffalo, more than Toronto, and more than the Islanders. The problem is, though, they have played 13 games, meaning their point percentage is still 15th in the conference. Only the Islanders have worse point percentage. They're 4-5-1 at .450. The Bruins are 6-7 at .462. And the Islanders also have the worst goal differential in the conference behind Boston, Florida, and the Maple Leafs, who are all at -4. The Islanders are -5. So a huge confidence boost for these Bruins. Something to build off, Nikita Zadorov said. He thought they showed something last game against the Islanders, coming back from that 2-0 deficit, winning 5-2. Played a good team. Played good team hockey, he said. And obviously, there is something to build off of here. Again, the winning lineup last night included Khusnutdinov on the top line. Included Jonathan Asparot on the third pairing with Henry Jokiharju. We've got a Zadorov McAvoy pairing, Lindholm Peak, Asparot Jokiharju, with Mason Lohrei being the healthy scratch. We're going to have to see here whether or not Lindholm is out for any length of time and what that will mean for the lineup. Do they put Beecher in there? Do they keep Khusnutdinov up there with David Pastrnak. Right now, you have Morgan Geekie on the third line. Middlestat moved over to the wing in favor of Pavel Zacha down the middle. Do they recall a Matt Poitras or a Riley Tufte? Doesn't look like there have been any recalls, according to Mark Diver, who said the gang's all here at Providence Bruins practice here on Friday morning. Maybe that's a good sign. But the Bruins do have 2 extra forwards up on the roster already, so that may mean they don't need to call anybody up right now unless it's going to be a long-term injury for Elias Lindholm. So some lineup decisions to be made. He's likely not playing Saturday against the Carolina Hurricanes. That's the game we'll preview here as the podcast continues. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score the next bucket to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets with a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Again, sign up for a new account, place a $5 bet, and if it wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use on the NBA, NHL, World Series, and the NFL. The Bruins are back in action on Saturday. It's an afternoon game against the Carolina Hurricanes, and this will not be an easy one by any stretch of the imagination. This is a very good Hurricanes team. They have the second best goal differential in the Eastern Conference. There's no way you would guess who is number 1 right now. How is this even possible? The Pittsburgh Penguins are currently 8-2-2, 18 points, a 750 point percentage, and a plus 13 goal differential. Like, is this 2008? How is this possible? How are the Penguins this good? It really boggles the mind, and, good on our boy Justin Brazeau for really taking advantage of an opportunity over there in Pittsburgh. He's been on fire to start the year. Anyways, we're not talking about the Penguins. We're talking about the Hurricanes, who will be in Boston to take on the Bruins at 1 p.m. on Saturday afternoon. This team is 7-3 to start the season. They have lost 3 of their past 5. 2 against Vegas, 1 against Dallas. They needed a shootout to beat Colorado, and they're coming off a win over the Islanders. So not exactly coming in hot, but you know what? We could see a Brandon Bussey revenge game, as he is 3-1 with a .916 save percentage, and he got that win over the Islanders last night. I wouldn't say he's one that got away, but he's looking pretty good there for the Carolina Hurricanes, as Peter Kochetkov is on the shelf. Overall, though, Carolina's save percentage is .895. Frederick Anderson, .892. He's got 4 wins, 2 losses. It'll be very, very interesting to see if the Bruins stick with Korpisalo, who's brought his save percentage up near where Jeremy Swayman's at. .882 for Korpisalo, .886 for Swayman. Almost identical goals against averages. Korpisalo is now 3-3. Swayman's 3-4. Very, very interesting to watch who will be in net there if they go with Korpisalo. Remember, last year he was saying he wished he had started a bit more. He was playing well enough to earn some more starts. They obviously deferred to Swayman because he is the number 1 and he's being paid as such. But if Korpisalo is rolling right now, there's no reason not to go back to him. Now, maybe he's a bit taxed from these couple of games. You want to not rely too heavily on that hot hand mentality. You got to be strategic about it. Swayman is your number one guy. You want him in net. And keep an eye on that for sure. Over there, past 5 games, the Hurricanes are led by Jackson Blake, who's got 4 points. Sebastian Aho with 3 goals. Nikolai Ehlers, newcomer, 4 assists over that span. David Pastrnak leading the way for the Bruins in their past 5 with 7 points. Geekie with 7 goals and 4 assists for Pastrnak. Now, one thing to keep in mind, the Hurricanes somehow have the league's worst power play. 9.7% success rate so far this season. The Bruins in 13th at 22.2. Last year, the Bruins were bottom in power play, penalty kill. It's improved a bit. They're middle of the pack, 13th on the power play, 15th ranked on the penalty kill. And the way the Hurricanes are going, hopefully they can maintain that success rate on the penalty kill. But they got so much talent, it's going to be hard to keep them off the board there. And even despite the league's worst power play, the Hurricanes have the most goals per game this season in the NHL. Imagine what will happen if their power play starts to click. Worst power play in the NHL, but most goals per game. That's pretty crazy. They are 14th in team defense, 3 goals allowed per game. The Bruins are 16th in offense, 26th in team defense, 3.62 goals per game. That's something that needs to be shored up. And if you're without Elias Lindholm for any length of time, that is going to obviously be a detriment because he is such a valuable two-way player for the Boston Bruins. Again, this game will take place at 1 p.m. Tonight. There are 3 games around the NHL. I'll be honest, I will be in full baseball mode as a Canadian Bruins fan, as someone who was born in Toronto. I will be 100% in Blue Jays mode, hoping they can finish out the World Series against the Los Angeles Dodgers. I wanted to make some sort of comparison between the Jays and the Bruins. Didn't think that would fly with the majority of Bruins fans, who are, of course, Red Sox faithful. But there's a lot to be said for the team chemistry of the Toronto Blue Jays. You know, they're sticking to the, we're powered by friendship. This is such a tight team. They are in it for each other. And that's kind of the mentality that the Bruins need to take. The Jays have a one superstar in Vladimir Guerrero, another very good player in Bo Bichette, George Springer. But they've got some contributions from an unexpected rookie. They're getting contributions from 41-year-old Max Scherzer. That's what you need, is full buy-in from a team in order to succeed. And the Bruins could do well to learn from that, from the Blue Jays. Anyways, I know there are a bunch of other Bruins fans up here in Canada who are in a similar spot. Let's get the trick-or-treating done. Sit on the couch, hit up the bar, go to a watch party, and cheer on the Toronto Blue Jays. All right, that's it for today's episode of Locked On Boston Bruins, my friends. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. Please do subscribe on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube if you have not already. Check out the Locked On NHL Game Night podcast next. It is available on the Locked On NHL podcast app or feed and on YouTube. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day. Please do take care of yourselves, friends. Take care of each other. And we'll talk to you here again on the next episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.